Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you had a good weekend and you're ready to get going, for the week. So just a quick little reminder that what we do is good and what people are looking for. A recent survey of 2,000 retirees with a minimum of $100,000 to invest. This is $100,000 on up, so it was upper middle income to the mass affluent. Our survey of 2,000 retirees. And they asked them, they basically surveyed them, and from the survey, here's the three things, here's the three major mindsets that they had. Well, first of all, guess what was not in, guess what mindset wasn't in any of the groups? Guess who didn't show up at all? Major mindsets. What do you think their concerns were? Kind of a broad question, I understand, so. Not seeing anybody say anything, so I'll just, aha! Tony got it. Jerry got it. You guys are so smart. Okay, Tony and Jerry, awesome. Yeah, rate of return wasn't anywhere. So here's the three mindsets. Guarantee seekers, people who could care less about making more money. They just want to make sure their income was safe. So guarantee seekers were basically after income. They want to make sure their income was safe. The estate planners, okay, well, these obviously were the people at the higher end of this spectrum. So the estate planners, they were worried about passing along their wealth to their children. And then asset protectors. So these are people who did not need income, but they want to make sure what happened. They didn't lose what they already had. Yeah, no, did we see here running out of money? Which is what all advisors think, and that's what our industry tries to get people to think, that people are afraid of running out of money. And you know what? There are some people that are afraid of that. Are they the people that we work with or want to work with? No. But the one thing, the big thing that I want to see here is, what are they not worried about? What are they not worried about? Making money, rate of return. And you know, if they were worried about, let's just talk about that for a second. Because advisors, anytime I do a class or whatever, and I ask people that aren't familiar with the 5Q system, what are seniors worried about? The number one answer advisors give is running out of money. Now, some of you, let's see, John got it right. Health always shows up in concern. So this was actually the mindset. This was an economic mindset or mindset when it came to money. But if you just ask people in general what they're worried about, John's right. It's health. Health is what they're worried about. Losing their marbles, that's another thing they're worried about. But here's the funny thing. Alzheimer's, you're right, Bert. That's another thing they're worried about. So, but when it comes to money, advisors think that people are worried about running out of money. Well, let's just assume, and that shows up at usually at about number 8 or number 9, not anywhere in the top 3. But let's assume that they were worried about running out of money. If we truly believe that our clients are worried about running out of money, the other, what should we not be investing them in? Based on the last 15 years, if they're really worried about running out of money, what should we not be investing them in? The market, exactly. I got a lot of people saying the market, exactly. Because if they're really worried about money, what should their goal be? To stay ahead of inflation. And what's inflation been in the last 15 years, 20 years? No more than 3%, right? So if they're really worried about running out of money, then our goal should be to make sure that they make on average 3% or more with no risk of what? With no risk of what? Losing money, exactly. So I just thought this was interesting because this survey, basically what we do at 5Q ties right into what basically 100% of the people are looking for. So that's good for us. Okay, today I want to talk a little bit about the thing, that last 10%, the last 10% of the 21-point checklist that you guys tend to miss. That is the difference between you making $300,000 a year and you making $1 million a year. So when we look at the 21-point checklist, we've got all these problems, right? They don't have a survivor's guide. The will and trust needs to be updated. The power of attorney needs to be fixed. The medical power of attorney needs to be electronically filed. So they have all these problems, right? And when we see guys go through all these problems, they have some success. They'll get 70 or 80% of the people to move when we show all these problems. But the unfortunate thing, that 20 or 30% of the people they miss That 20, 30% of the people they miss, do you think those are the people with the most money or the least money? I think this the most, exactly. The most. It's the people with the most money. So that 20 or 30 people that they miss, when we just go through and show these as problems. So let's see, I'm emphasizing problems here. So is there a problem with showing that they have problems? Is that what we want to do? Do we want to show them they have problems, these problems? Is that our goal at the 21-point checklist? Aha, so many of you got it right. No, our job is not to show they have problems. You're right, guys. So all of you that said no, our job is not to show them that they have problems is exactly right. Because if they have problems, what can they do? Ah, Roy's got it. Their problem, they have one problem. They don't have problems. These things are not problems. They have one problem, which is what? Their guy. So you're right. If all these things are problems, it means their guy's made a mistake. If we've all had advisors or gone up against advisors who we were able to show, and the client absolutely admitted their guy had made a lot of mistakes, and what'd they do? When they found out their guy had made a lot of mistakes, what'd they do? Because these are all mistakes. He didn't do these things. That's a big mistake. There's a lot of mistakes. Ah, Tony, you got it. He forgave them. He forgave them. So you can actually get 70 or 80% of people just walking through these things. But if you want to get that last 20 or 30%, that last 20 or 30% with the most money, you got to make sure that they understand why these problems occurred. And because if it's just about the problems, it's not going to get the people with the most money. So here's the thing. If we hear a guy backed over a 3-year-old, who do we feel sorry for? Kind of everybody, especially after we hear some more information. And if we heard that this guy was a good father of 5 children, he was leaving for his second shift, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and he's backing out of his driveway. He had no real reason to realize that there was a 3-year-old walking behind him, and he ran over that 3-year-old. Who would we feel sorry for? The driver and everybody, right? The dad. So we'd be feeling sorry for everybody. But now we hear a different story, and we find out the guy was actually drunk and ran over a 3-year-old. Now who do we feel sorry for? Or what do we feel about the driver? Yep, we feel sorry for the kid. We don't feel sorry for the driver. We want to hang him. But now we listen, and there's more information. No, we find out he was on meth, and he and his buddy had a bet to see how many 3-year-olds they could run over that day. Now what do we think? So same exact outcome, right? The same exact mistake was made. A 3-year-old was run over. The same exact mistake was made. A 3-year-old was run over. But how different are those 3 stories? How different are those 3 stories? Way different. So we can't just be after the crime. We have to show the motive. There's a motive. Without the motive, we're not going to get that 20 or 30% that have the most money. So the thing that when people first come onto the system, and Jeff asked them, how much, what is your closing ratio? Guess what people say when they first come on the system? What their closing ratio is. I get them all, right, Chris? 90%, right, Dale? 80, 90%, yeah. So then when Jeff starts talking to them, he finds out that, oh, well, yeah, over the last couple of years, all they've done is work with referrals. So, dude, if you have a below an 80% closing ratio on referrals, you got a what? You got a problem. So when they try to tell us they have an 80 or 90% closing ratio, I mean, this is the analogy I give. If I'm a big league baseball player and I say I bat 1,000, would you believe me? If I say I bat 1,000, would you believe me? No. I mean, but I say, well, here, come to a game. I'll prove it to you. So first time up, you see me, I'm called out on strikes. Second time up, I pop out. Third time up, I walk. Fourth time up, I get on base. And you're waiting outside that locker room. And you've got a big smile on your face, and you're a little confused because I come out of that locker room with a big smile on my face. And I say, see, I don't bat. I see, I bat 1,000. And what would you say? No, you didn't. You didn't bat 1,000. What do you mean I didn't bat 1,000? Well, how about that first time you were called on a strike? I'd say, that does not count. Did you see that? That ump needs glasses. That was not a strike. We can't count one where there wasn't even a strike that I was called out on. Well, really? Okay, well, how about the pop-up? Dude, that ball was thrown at 100 miles an hour. If you look at the physics, if you look at the body's physiology and physics, the signal can't go from the brain to your arms to the bat quick enough to hit a 100-mile-an-hour baseball. So we can't count that one either. So here's the thing. When it comes to us, we have a hey, not you, me too, human beings. We have a method. Yeah, Ted Williams is my hero. I love Ted Williams. But the thing is that we start to have a self-preservation mechanism where we start to tell ourselves, well, those other people, we weren't able to get them. They don't count. Well, they love their advisor, so they don't count. I can't count that as part of my closing ratio. Guys, if they love their advisor, I know for sure I'm going to get them. If they love their advisor, I know I have a 100% chance of getting that guy. Why? Why? I have a 100% chance of getting that guy. Why? If they love their advisor. That's right, Mark. They're going to be even more disappointed. The more they love the guy, the more they are freaked out that he was taking advantage of them. I mean, strangers, guess what? We expect or aren't surprised when a stranger tries to take advantage of us, right? But how offended are we when our best friend takes advantage of us or the person that we love takes advantage of us? So the thing is, when we're talking about closing ratio, when I tell you that I can get 50% of people, I have a 50% closing ratio to get all of their money, I'm talking about you roll a bus up to my front door of seniors, have them walk through my office, I'll close 50% of them for all of their money. And these are people that have zero intention of moving any money to me. But I will take those people that have zero intention of moving money to me, and I have a 50% closing ratio for all their money. And when we look at it closer, I'll tell you I have a 90% closing ratio for all their money. Here's why. Of this 10 people, there's 6 that are gettable. 1 will take too long, so I'm just going to drip on them. I don't know why this is out of order. So 1, I'm going to be able to do just by doing the 21 with those scripts. 2, I'm going to get by getting the advisor, or the client to say the advisor doesn't care. 2, by getting the client to say the advisor did it on purpose. 1, I'm going to skip because it because it takes too long. And 4, have no money. So if I wanted to, I could get all those people except 4 have no money, and 1 takes too long. Now, why can I say that, guys? Well, we'll talk about that here in a second. So basically, when you pull that bus up to a normal advisor's office, they're going to close 1 out of 10 because right time, right place. Their advisor just died. Their advisor just made them mad. Their advisor retired. So right place, right time. 1 out of 10. That's what most advisors are getting right now. Because, hey, that's what I got for the first 8 years. Because when you show all these people that have no intention of moving their money to you, what happens when you show them a better investment, guys? When people come into your office and they have no intention of moving their money to you, what happens? What do they do with their money? They go to their guy, right, Chris? They take it back to their guy. What if I show them that their guy is screwing them? What do? Without the 5Q system, I mean, for 8 years, I mean, they go back to their guy and they yell at their guy, and the guy says what? Cross my heart, hope to die, I'll never do that again. They forgive them, exactly. So just trying to show them that their investments are bad or that you have a better investment or the guy's making a lot of mistakes, they'll take it back to their guy. Now, 1 out of 10 will work with you. And that's, unfortunately, the Vegas mentality. You think, well, that worked. But then we had this protection mechanism, and what do we say about these other people, these other 9 people? What do we say about those folks? I'll tell you the number one that people say. Guess what the number one thing that I hear advisors say about these folks? They're not good prospects. Exactly, Tom. They're not good prospects. And they lump not good prospects into, oh, they probably didn't have any money. Oh, they love their guy. They come up with all sorts of excuses why. Now, when they say they probably had no money, they did love their president advisor, I mean, who are they pointing the finger at, guys? Plate lickers? Yeah, Michael. Plate lickers? Who are they pointing the finger at? They're blaming the client, right, Tony? They're blaming others. Because here's the thing, guys. Think about this. Do we have things that people want? Do we have things that people want? If you don't have things that people want, you better what? Find something that they want. So let's assume that we have things that people want. So if we have things that people want, and then there's the people, what's the only thing between that person and what they want? Yeah, us. So that means there's only one problem, and that's who? Me. If I don't sell somebody something that they want, guess who the problem is? It's not that person, it is me. Okay? So here's what we're doing. When you get good at communicating, we're going to have 10% that will buy, right place, right time. 1 out of 10 will buy. 1 will never buy simply because we don't want to waste our time on them. Another 1 out of that 10, they'll just move their money because you do a 21-point checklist, because you show that you're different and you show that you care by doing a 21, don't you? But if you only get 1 more out of 10, what's happened to your closing ratio? Is it going up 10%? You were getting 1 out of 10, now you're getting 2 out of 10. What's happened to your closing ratio? It's doubled, exactly. And then when you're able to start show that you take the motive up a little bit and show that he didn't care, you're going to get even more. But when you start showing, are able to do it, well, he did this stuff on purpose. And are we going to say that, guys? No, they are going to say that. If they say their guy is screwing them on purpose, how many people will stay with their guy? If they say it. Now, if you say their guy did it on purpose, what are they going to do? You'll get some, but you're not going to get a lot of them. You're going to miss a lot of them. And then you got that one guy down here, this 10%. These people have no money. The rest of these people have no money. That's why we don't get if you put a whole busload of people with money, I'll get all of them. But, every time we get in front of people, we got 4 people with no money, 6 that do. This one here, I keep missing that. This one here, I could get him, but guess what? Do I really want to spend all the time and effort to get this person, or just go back to the well? I just want to go back to the well where I can get another 5 people. I'd rather go with 5 than to chase that one guy. Now I'll drip on this guy, and I'll get some of them over time. Now, how many times do you need to be reminded, if it sounds too good to be true, it is? So do you guys believe me when I say I could take a busload of folks and close 5 out of 10? Do you think I could? People had no purpose or no reason, no thought of moving their money to me? Yes, I can. Why? Well, first of all, I have a script that's worked for over 50,000 meetings, so there's no doubt I can. Because if we can get the client to say any advisor doesn't make sure that my power of attorney works is a lousy advisor, we can get them to say my advisor purposely used the wrong form to make money on me when I'm dead, then he wants to do the same thing to my kids. My advisor only cares about making money on me. My needs, my family needs are just an afterthought. He's all about a paycheck. He could care less about me if he's not, unless he's making money. Unless he's making money. And 18 other unflattering things. See, I'm not going to tell them a thing. They're going to show me, explain to me, and prove to me that the guy is what? Taking advantage of them. Thanks, Tom. So here's the thing. If we show them we can fix those problems, all those 21 problems, if we show them that there's problems and we can fix them, what happens? If we show them that they have nothing, exactly, big swing and a miss. And I take that back. Again, we'll close what? 2 out of 10. 2 out of 10. It's not enough. It's not enough. It costs too much to market. It takes too much time and effort to market. We can't just be satisfied with 2 out of 10. 1 out of 10 because you're at the right place. Another 1 out of 10 because, again, they think you care and think that you're different. But that leaves another 3. So that means we get 2, but that leaves another 3 we could have gotten, and those 3 had the most money. We need to get to the point where we're talking about motive. Now, why don't the guys, because this is really the place where a lot of guys have a real problem. And Jeff, could you get on the line a second? Because Jeff and I do all the tape reviews. Yeah, so I mean, would you agree that there's some guys that are very good at the script, aren't they? And they're very good at getting on people's side. But when it comes to motive, what happens?
I think they kind of bail because it's an uncomfortable conversation, so they don't have it.
Yeah. So they're because it is awkward, right? Anytime they've done that before, what's happened to them?
Well, in the
past life.
Yeah, in their past life, when they've tried to attack the advisor, the client's gotten really defensive and angry, even at them. Kind of want the kill the messenger kind of mentality.
And then we've actually had one of our good guys. This happened about a year and a half ago. One of our best guys left us, and what was the reason he told us he was leaving us, Jeff? He didn't quite get the system. He was good, but he didn't quite get it.
He was good. He was uncomfortable having that conversation.
And why did he say he was uncomfortable?
He just felt like it was he was bashing other advisors.
He was not a gentleman. So what do you think this what do you think this guy was missing? When he said, I'm not comfortable with this because we're bashing other advisors, what was he missing? What tree, he couldn't see the tree for the forest. What was he missing? When he said, I don't like this because, Chris got it. Good job, Chris. Tony got it. Jerry. Yep, that's it. The clients do, Kevin, excellent. He thought he was doing the bashing. No, we never, do you ever hear me say a bad word about an advisor, guys? Except on these calls. When I'm doing the script for the 21, I never say a bad word about the advisor. The scripts are designed never to say a bad word about the advisor. And in fact, if we say a bad word about the advisor, what will that client do? If we say a bad word to the advisor, what would that client do? Get defensive. And if they defend him, Kevin, out loud, guess what? If they defend their guy out loud just once, guess what happens? Meeting over. That's right, Thomas. We're lost because if we defend the guy out loud once, they're going to defend him continually because now it's out there. They have to defend their position. So this whole system is about letting them do that, but they have to do it. So the guy feels like the gentleman, and as Jeff just said, guys are afraid because when they've done this in the past, they've been rejected. But again, you don't need to worry about rejected because why will they not reject you guys? When you're going through the 5Q system, why will they not reject you if you're doing it right? That's right, Tom. They have to come to their own conclusion. They say it in their own words, Mark. So the only person they could reject is who? I mean, is a client going to say, boy, he's a lousy advisor? No, he's not. Yes, he is. No, he's not. Are they going to have an argument with themselves in front of you? No. So if they're going to make the jump that the guy's doing this to them, they're not going to argue with themselves. They're not going to argue with themselves. Now, what I have seen is a wife jump to the conclusion the guy's screwing them, and then the guy does what? I have seen this, where the wife jumps to the conclusion the guy's screwing them, and the guy does what? Defends their buddy. But who wins that argument? When you do it right, who wins that argument? Yeah, mama wins that argument. So I just want you to understand, we don't say the bad things. We don't say the bad things. We let the client discover it for themselves. We let them decide. How do we do that? Now, again, they're not just going to come to this conclusion themselves, so we do something that attorneys cannot do. What are lawyers not allowed to do in court? Aha, Eric. We ask leading questions. We ask leading questions. So I get a lot of you guys to say, Mike, but it's so hard. It's so hard to do that. I just don't, I'm not wired to ask questions. Hey, that's cool. I get that you may not be wired to ask questions. There's a very simple solution to that, though, guys. What's a simple solution? If you can't ask questions, if you're not wired to ask questions, what's a simple solution to that? Close it. Eric, what do you mean by that? Eric, expound on that. You're close to it. Well, I'd say practice, yeah. But a lot of guys have practiced for a long time and they haven't been able to get those questions. Ah, Bert got it. Memorize the script, right, Kevin? Memorize the script. When you read the scripts, all those scripts, how many statements are in those scripts? None. It's question after question after question after question after question after question after question. So if you can't learn if you don't know how to ask questions, just memorize the script. Okay? But I'll tell you straight out, and I've told this before, when guys say that, it's too hard to ask questions, if I sat in the corner of your office with a loaded 45 and said anything that comes out of your mouth other than a question, I'm going to shoot you in the kneecap, what would you all be able to magically do? That's right, Tom. We want to get if that engages clients. You'd all ask questions. Now, would some of the questions be awkward at first? As you're trying to think, how do I phrase this into a... Yes, they would be awkward. And would maybe there be some long silences as you're trying to formulate in your mind the next question? Yeah, I would think there would be some long periods of time. But here's the thing. Not 10 years, not 10 months, not 10 weeks, not 10 days, not even 10 hours, but after just 10 minutes of me sitting in that corner threatening to shoot your kneecap if anything comes out of your mouth beside a question, guess what would magically start to happen? The questions would get what? Better. The distances between the times would get what? Better. Shorter. So here's the thing. You can learn to ask questions, or the easiest thing is just to learn scripts. All my guys that the 13 guys that made over $1 million a year using this system, I could go, and Jeff can validate this. If Jeff and I were listening to a tape of theirs, we'd go in 36 minutes. Guess what? What would we hear? We went in 36 minutes. What would we hear? The exact same thing. I could go in at a minute or an hour and 10 minutes. Guess what I'd hear? The exact same thing. They were like machines. They were like me. Every meeting I had was the same. The script was the same. The script was the same. The script was the same. For these guys that made $1 million a year, you could drop them. I could say, I could start halfway through a script. Guess what they could do? Finish it. Guess why they made $1 million a year? Because everybody they sat down with that had money, guess what? Moved all their money. So you can sit here and say that it's hard. And Jeff and Missy can validate this. For the first probably 5 years that I was working with advisors, and actually people always ask me, Mike, why did you get out of the financial planning business, the personal production? I'm in a town of 100,000 people, and I had so many clients that I couldn't leave the house without running into one of them at a grocery store, a restaurant, etc. And my wife can validate that I ran out of grocery stores several times because I would see a client in the aisle and I couldn't remember their name, and I would freak out because my wife's with me, so I'm going to have to introduce her. So I would have to say, hi, Michelle, this is my wife, Michelle, and these are my clients. I mean, I didn't know their name. And the more I worried, the more I freaked out, the less likely I was going to know that name. So the reason I got out of personal production, besides spending all my time working with you guys, is I freaked out because I couldn't remember people's names. And in a small town like Rochester, you ran into these people all the time. So when I started to coach advisors, I would convince myself that I couldn't remember people's names. And so Missy and Jeff, for the first 5 years with advisors, when they would come to class, we'd have 15 people in the room. How many people's names in there did I remember?
None.
None, really. Yeah.
I'd say, hey, big guy. Hey, wild man. Hey, I'd call them anything but their names. And then guess what I finally did? I finally said, you know what? I'm yelling at these guys for saying things are hard, and guess what I'm doing? Saying things are hard. So then one day I sat down and said, you know what? I'm just going to learn people's names. So what I did, this is for years. So I was like, 42 years old or something at this time. So after 42 years of saying I couldn't remember people's names, what I did is I played a 10-minute video, went back, looked at the seating chart, and in 10 minutes, guess what I magically was able to do? memorize people's names. So 42 years of telling myself I couldn't do something, and when I sat down, in 10 minutes, I learned everybody's names. And since that day, guess what? You guys that went out to class, how quickly did it take for me to learn your names? This is something I told myself for 42 years I couldn't do, and now I'm very, very good at it. So just quit telling yourself that you can't do something, or guess what? Just learn the scripts. Because here's the funny thing. I was talking to an advisor, listening to his tape, and he goes, this is mind-blowing. It's so, he said it's so, I can't remember the word, but such a release, because we're listening to the power of attorney, and guess what the client sounded like? Because this advisor nailed it. John nailed the power of attorney. He nailed it. And guess what he was amazed about when he nailed the power of attorney script? What was he amazed about? What do you think, guys? The client has said their parts, Jerry. The client, it was like John handed the script to the client, and the client just read off the script as John did it. Guys, guess what? Here's the amazing thing. 15 years ago, I predicted what John's client would say. Is that powerful or not? 15 years ago, when I designed the script, I knew exactly what John's client was going to say. Is that powerful or what? And if you do every single script this way, guess what? 15 years ago, I predicted what your clients will say, because it's all leading questions. There's only one answer the client can give you. When you do these scripts right, the client will convince himself they need to leave their current guy. So we need to assign motive. And the scripts help you do that. And we can't tell them what the motive is. The client has to come to their own conclusion. So what is the motive for Survivor's Guide? What is the advisor's motive, their advisor's motive for not doing the Survivor's Guide, medical power of attorney, e-filing, quality of life directive, ID theft plan, the umbrella? What's his motive for not doing those things? Yep, not caring about no money. So exactly right. And here's the thing. Here's why the system works the way it does. Where are all these? Where are all these things in the script? Early on or late? Early on or late? Early. So we start. See, they love their guy, so we can't tell them the guy's a bad guy. But can they admit that maybe, oh, this would have been a good thing. The Survivor's Guide would have been a good thing for him to hand out. Oh, you know what? That medical power of attorney, he should have done that. Oh, that e-filing, what a great idea. He should be doing that. Now, will they leave their guy for that? Will they leave their guy for missing these things? No, they won't. But does it have them start to think, you know what? My guy could be doing a little bit better. Does it make them think my guy could be doing a little bit better? Yeah. So we Eric, we plant the seed. So we start them thinking, boy, you know what, my guy, I love my guy in the morning. He loved the guy. Then they get there and they say, boy, you know what, he could be doing some things a little bit better. If they admit that he could be doing some things a little bit better, guess what they can admit next? Poor froggy, exactly, Todd. Boil the frog. So if they could admit that he could be doing things better, they could admit that he maybe made a tiny mistake. If they admit that he made a tiny mistake, they admit that he could make a bigger mistake. If they admit that he made a bigger mistake, they could admit that he made even a bigger mistake. And if they admit he made an even bigger mistake, they could admit that maybe he's doing these things on purpose. See, it's boiling this frog slowly. Put him in cool water, slowly turn up the heat. So these are at the beginning. So what's the motive for the POA? Now, the way we do the script the first time through, we don't actually assign motive. But on the second, when we review at the end of the 21-point checklist, we're able to assign motive. What would be the motive of an advisor not covering the power of attorney? Ah, good job, Eric. Hold on to the money. Now, we do not do that with our script the first time through. But when we go review from back to front at the end, guess what we're able to do with the power of attorney? Assign motive. The reason he didn't care about your power of attorney is because it's going to keep it in the courts longer, which means he gets to hold on the money longer. Do you get that? Does everybody get that? Our script, the first time through, we don't talk about that. We basically let them, we don't even mention the guy. We say, what kind of advisor would I be if I didn't take care of power of attorney? But when we review the script at the end of the meeting, on our way back, we're able to assign the motive as he wants to keep the money longer. Yes, Chris asks, are the motive questions always with why questions? They're not always why questions. You'll notice that we ask them differently depending on the script, but essentially they are always why questions, Chris, but they're asked a little bit differently. We're never going to say, so why didn't he do this? We do that occasionally, but we don't want to, at the end of the 21 things, why didn't he do this, and why didn't he do that, and why did he do that? So we disguise it a bit, and that's why the scripts are very helpful to learn. Titling, what's the motive with titling, guys? What's the motive with titling? Well, if they don't have POD or TOD on it, where does the money stay? Keep the money longer, Chris. Good job. Gets to keep the money longer. What's the motive for beneficiaries? Guy doesn't care, John. Exactly. Guy does not care. Only cares about his own checkbook. What's the motivation for fees? Pretty easy. Hid them to make money off of you. Greedy, exactly. What's the motive for asset weighting? Why do you put all the money into the market? And actually, I'm putting together a paper on Ken Fisher. Ken Fisher has been sued over and over and over because how much of the client's money, I don't care if they're 80 years old or 60 years old or 40 years old, how much of the Ken Fisher does he put into equities? 100%. So why would an advisor put 100% of a client's money into equities? Very funny, Todd. Todd says, who's Ken Fisher? Yeah, to make bigger fees, exactly. He overweighted to make more money off you because if he put in his savings account, how much money would he make? Turnover costs. Why didn't he tell you about the turnover costs? Hid them to make money off of you. How about the preferred list? Hid it to make money off of you. Does everybody know what the preferred list is? Anybody not know what the preferred list is? If you want to know what the preferred list is, think of Edward D. Jones. What kind of mutual funds does Edward D. Jones sell? Yeah, Thomas got it. American funds, American funds, American funds, yep. A motive, risk versus reward. Why did he hide that from you? I hid it to make money off of you. Diversification, there's a good one. Diversification, why did he hide that from you? Remember the TV remotes? Why did he hide that from you? Because when we look at these over and over and over at these portfolios, how diversified are they? Not at all. They're all going to be affected the same. So why would he hide that from them? Control, John. John got it, control. Because if it was easy, guess who they wouldn't need? Because when we look at these portfolios and they got 15 or 20 different investments, we find out all 15 or 20 are acting exactly the same. So if they're acting exactly the same, how many investments do you need? One. So why do they have you in 15 or 20? They're all acting the same. If they're all correlated, it's so that they can make it complicated so you think you can't do this yourself. So at the end of the 21-point checklist, then what do? That's right, John. We make it. They make it look simple. Make the simple look complicated. Exactly right. So at the end of the 21, what do? Yeah, we restate. We go backwards. Then we go all the way back. And when they're reviewing on every single topic, what am I looking for? What do I want them to say on every single topic? Ah, that's right, Jerry. Review not the topics, not the problems, but the motive. Right, Eric, the motive. And I want to hear that motive over and over. He's screwing me, exactly, over and over and over. And guess what happens? Even if you missed a few of these things, for example, with the power of attorney, when we first went through power of attorney, did we assign blame to that guy? No, we hope that they assigned blame, but maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But on the way back, guess what when we get to the power of attorney, guess how easy it is to assign blame to him for not covering the power of attorney? Hard or easy? Very easy. Very easy. See, they have to blame the guy. They have to blame the guy. So what are we looking for at the end of the 21-point checklist? So Jeff, could you talk about, you do it so well on talking about what you're looking for, or what the advisor should be looking for, at the end of the 21.
Sure. I always tell people, as you look at that list of 21 things, the problem with the list is that everything on the list is easy to fix. And so if it's easy to fix, you can fix it, absolutely, you can fix it, but anybody could fix it. I could fix it, the guy down the street from me could fix it, the guy down the street from you could fix it, the guy that they have could fix it. If they don't have a guy, most of those things on the list they could probably fix on their own. So like we talked about, it's the difference between showing them a list of problems and showing them a list that points to a motive. And I always say, you know, I wish I could interview people as they came out of your office, because I could just ask them one question and I'd know whether or not they were going to work with you. It's a long meeting. It's long for two reasons. One, we're talking about a lot of different things, up to 21 different things, so it's going to be long just because of the sheer number of things that you cover. But again, like we talked about, I can't say that he did it on purpose. I can't say that he only cares about himself. I can't say that he doesn't know about these things. They have to say that in their own words, and so it's going to take longer because they have to say it. You have to ask questions. They have to give the answers. The meeting ends up being around 2 hours long, roughly. So at the end of the meeting, I would just ask people, gosh, you were talking to
This is if you were interviewing them as they walk out of the advisor's office.
Yep, if I was interviewing your clients as they walked out of your office, I would just ask them, man, you were in there for like 2 hours. What all did you guys talk about? Well, if they answer, well, we talked about a lot of things. We talked about my power of attorney and how it might not work. I have to get that fixed, otherwise my wife won't be able to get to my money if I'm in the hospital. We talked about our grandkids could get disinherited. We didn't realize that could happen. We talked about the fees that we're paying. We didn't even know we were paying all those fees. We're paying a lot. We talked about the risk that we're taking. We had no idea we were taking that much risk. Well, if that's how they answer, then guess what I know? They're not working with you. Because what they're worried about are the things on the list. They're worried about their power of attorney. They're worried about their beneficiaries. They're worried about their fees. They're worried about the risk. Like we talked about, all those things are easy to fix with or without you. So 1 out of 10 will work with you, but the rest will just go back to their guy, or they'll tackle them on their own. See, the problem before was they just didn't have the list. Now that they have the list and they've had these conversations with you, they know what to at least go back and attempt to do. If instead they walked out of your office and I said, wow, you guys were in there a long, long time. What all did you talk about? Well, if instead they said, well, we talked about how my guy is screwing me. Well, why would you say that? Well, what would make you think that? Well, now they're going to recite the list back to me. Probably in reverse order. They'll say, well, I think it because he didn't show me the risk graph. He knew if I saw that, I wouldn't work with him. And all he cares about is making money for himself, not me. He didn't talk to us about our grandkids being disinherited because he doesn't care about our grandkids. He only cares about himself. And he didn't go over the power of attorney with us because he just wanted to keep the money longer. Well, if they answer like that, then I know they're working with you because they're not worried about the things so much as they're worried about the guy. The things are just an excuse to talk about the guy. And if they don't get that, and if they're not able to say that when they walk out of the room, they weren't able to say it while they were in the room, and you don't have anybody.
Does that make sense, everybody? It has to be about their guy, not about these things. Now, just to summarize, the one thing, there's lots of things I want to get from this call, but the one that I will call you on is this. If you ever tell me that it's hard to ask questions, guess what your assignment is going to be? So if I ever hear you say it's hard to ask questions, you're going to get an assignment. Ha! Bert's got it. Memorize it. Roy. Memorize the scripts. So, and I'm going to then call you on it. I'm going to say, oh, great. Awesome. No, you know what? I'm your buddy. I don't want it to be hard for you, so I'm going to make it easy. We're not just going to memorize the big three. Guess what we're going to memorize? So, dudes, let's not tell ourselves that it's hard to do. Because if it's hard to do, then you have the tools. And remember I talked about here about a month or two ago, if I pulled a fireman aside who knows nothing about finances, knows nothing about selling, I said, you memorize these 21 scripts in 2 weeks, I'll pay you $1 million, what would he do? He'd memorize them way better than you guys. So, guys, these scripts are worth $1 million. Do you get that they're worth $1 million? And that's why when I hear when an advisor say, wow, this is amazing. You know, when I use the script, the client said exactly what you're going to say. Do you see why I pull my hair out? Yeah, I know that. It's been working that way for 15 years. So I'm a little confused on why you keep telling me why you don't have the time to do it or the effort to do it or whatever, or that it's hard, because you know what? Digging ditches is hard. Learning scripts is easy, especially if you're going to get paid $1 million. And guys, I don't care. What if you don't make $1 million this year? If you triple your income this year, quadruple your income, quintuple your income this year, it's going to be worth $1 million over the next 2 or 3 years, if not 1 year. So let's just memorize the scripts, dude. If you don't, and again, we have you memorize the big 3, but then you got to go back and learn the other ones as well. And I'm putting you on your Scout's Honor. You learn the other ones as well. And once you learn the big 3, guys, what should you be doing every week after you learn the big 3? What should you be doing every week after learning the big 3? Practice, right, Roy? Practice and practice so you don't lose what you already took the time to learn. Make sense? Was this a helpful call? I know we're beating the horse dead, but we'll quit beating it when you guys when you guys are doing it, okay? Is that fair? So you guys have a great rest of the week, and then we will talk to you all on Friday. Thanks, everybody.